Jake Morrison wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked the wire traps around their small camp. 3 months had passed since the sky burned, and metal pieces fell like deadly rain on the forest moon. 3 months since he found the little alien boy hurt and alone in the wreckage. The boy was not human. He had soft gray fur covering his small body and large golden eyes that seemed too old for his young face. His people called him Prince Kef, though Jake just called him Kid most of the time. The prince was only 6 years old, but he was smart and brave. Jake looked back at their shelter. He had built it from pieces of crashed ships and fallen trees. Metal sheets made the roof waterproof. Old ship cables held everything together. It was not pretty, but it kept them safe and dry. Inside, Prince Kef was practicing the knife work Jake had taught him, moving his small hands carefully as he carved a piece of wood. "Looking good, kid," Jake said as he ducked into the shelter. "Remember to keep your thumb away from the blade." Prince Kef looked up with his big golden eyes. "Jakthar, when will my mother come find us?" Jake's chest tightened. The boy asked this question every few days. Jake always gave the same answer, though he worried it might not be true. "She will come. Queens don't give up on their sons." The truth was darker. Jake had been a prisoner when the transport ship crashed during the big attack. He could have run away and tried to get back to human space. Instead, he found this hurt alien child and decided to stay. Some people might call him crazy. His own people were at war with the Zalani Empire. This boy was the enemy's prince. But Jake looked at those golden eyes and saw only a scared kid who needed help. The first weeks had been hard. Prince Kef had a broken arm and fever from infection. Jake used his basic medical training to help the boy heal. He found clean water and safe food. He taught the prince how to hide when the dangerous animals came at night. Now they had a good life together in the forest. Jake had set up clever traps around their camp using salvaged electronics from the crashed ships. Motion sensors triggered loud alarms. Tripwires released nets. Pressure plates made noisemakers go off. Any person or animal trying to sneak up would trigger at least 3 warnings. Prince Kef had learned to fight with a knife and how to find food in the forest. He could start fires and treat small cuts. Jake was proud of how tough the little prince had become. "Jakthar," Prince Kef said, using the name he had given Jake. It meant guardian brother in his language. "I heard something big moving in the south woods today." Jake's hand moved to his rifle. He had kept it clean and ready, though bullets were running low. "How big?" "Bigger than the rock bears." It was trying to be quiet, but I heard metal sounds too. Jake felt his heart speed up. Metal sounds meant people, not animals. After 3 months, someone was finally coming to this part of the forest. The question was whether they were friends or enemies. "Pack the emergency bag," Jake told the prince. "Quiet and fast." They had practiced this many times. Prince Kef moved quickly, putting food, water, and medical supplies into a small backpack. Jake grabbed his rifle and the portable scanner he had fixed using parts from 3 different machines. The scanner showed heat signatures moving through the trees. 5 contacts, all large and moving in formation like trained soldiers. They were still 2 miles away but getting closer. "Can you tell who they are?" Prince Kef whispered. Jake studied the scanner. The heat signatures were too big to be human. They had to be Zalani, the prince's people. But were they here to rescue the boy or to clean up loose ends from the crash? "Stay close to me," Jake said. "If I tell you to run, you go to hiding spot number 3 and wait for my signal." They moved through the forest like ghosts. Jake had taught Prince Kef how to walk without making noise, how to use shadows and thick plants for cover. The boy was a natural at staying hidden. Jake led them to a good watching spot on a small hill. Through his makeshift scope, he could see 5 tall figures in dark armor moving through the trees below. They were definitely Zalani warriors, but their armor was decorated with royal symbols. His heart jumped when he saw the leader. Even through the armor, he could tell this was a female Zalani, tall and powerful. She moved like someone used to command. Could this be the queen the boy talked about so much? The warriors were getting close to their camp. Jake's traps would trigger soon. He had to make a choice. Run away with the prince and hope they could hide in the deep forest, or stay and see if these were the good guys. Prince Kef made the choice for him. The boy saw the royal symbols too, and gasped. "Mother," he whispered. Before Jake could stop him, Prince Kef stood up and started running down the hill toward the warriors. Jake cursed under his breath and followed, knowing his careful plans had just fallen apart. The first trap triggered when Prince Kef ran through the perimeter. Alarms screamed through the forest. The Zalani warriors spun toward the sound, weapons ready. Jake caught up to Prince Kef just as the boy reached the edge of their camp. The 5 warriors had their guns pointed at both of them. The leader, the one Prince Kef had called Mother, was staring at Jake with shock and confusion. Queen Zarathek had found her son, but she had also found something she never expected. A human warrior standing guard over the most precious thing in her world. Queen Zarathek stood very still, her weapon pointed at the human who had been living with her son. She was taller than any human, with silver fur and bright blue eyes that seemed to burn with inner fire. Her armor was black metal decorated with gold symbols that showed her royal rank. "Step away from my son," she said in perfect English, her voice deep and commanding. Jake kept his hands visible but did not move back. Prince Kef was standing between them, looking confused and scared. The boy had been so happy to see his mother, but now he could feel the danger in the air. "He's safe," Jake said simply. "I'm not going to hurt him." "You are human," said one of the other warriors, a male with scars across his face. "Your people killed thousands of ours in the war. Why should we trust you with our prince?" Jake looked at Queen Zarathek, not the scarred warrior. She was the one who mattered here. She was the one who would decide if he lived or died. "Because I could have killed him 3 months ago and didn't," Jake said. "I could have used him as a prisoner and didn't. I could have left him to die when I found him and didn't." Prince Kef stepped closer to Jake. "Mother, Jakthar saved my life. He fixed my broken arm and taught me how to be strong." The queen's eyes narrowed. "Show me." Jake slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. It was a medical scanner he had repaired using parts from the crashed ships. He had a bad break in his left arm and infection in his blood. "I had to set the bone and give him antibiotics from the medical supplies I found." He handed the scanner to the queen. She looked at the old medical readings stored in its memory. Her face showed surprise as she saw how badly hurt her son had been. "The infection could have killed him in 2 days," Jake continued. "The broken bone would have healed wrong and left him weak. He needed help fast." Queen Zarathek looked at her son's arm. Prince Kef held it up proudly. "See, Mother? It's all better now." Jakthar made it strong again. The scarred warrior moved closer. "This proves nothing. He could have hurt the prince to make himself look like a hero." Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "Look around your camp. See what I built here?" The warriors spread out and began examining Jake's shelter and the area around it. They found his water purification system made from ship parts. They saw the food storage area where Jake had been preserving meat and vegetables. They discovered the workshop where he fixed broken equipment. Most important, they found Prince Kef's learning area. Jake had set up a place where he taught the boy every day. There were practice targets for knife throwing, a small medical kit with supplies sized for the prince's hands, books in both human and Zalani languages that Jake had found in the wreckage. "He's been teaching the boy survival skills," reported one of the warriors. "Weapons training, medical knowledge, forest craft." Queen Zarathek picked up a wooden practice sword that Jake had carved for Prince Kef. It was perfectly balanced and sized for small hands. This was not something a person would make in a few days. This took time and care. "Tell me what happened," she said to Jake. Jake sat down on a fallen log, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening. Prince Kef sat beside him, which seemed to surprise the queen. "I was a prisoner on transport ship Mercy when your forces attacked the station," Jake began. "The ship got caught in the orbital bombardment and crashed here. Most of the prisoners died in the crash." He pointed toward the wreckage visible through the trees. "I was hurt, but not too bad. I was going to try to find a way off this moon and get back to human space. Then I heard crying." Prince Kef looked up at him. "I was scared and my arm hurt so much." "He was trapped under part of a ship wing," Jake continued. "Alone, hurt and scared. I could have walked away. Maybe I should have walked away. Instead, I got him out and brought him here." "Why?" Queen Zarathek asked. "Why save the son of your enemy?" Jake was quiet for a moment. He looked at Prince Kef, then back at the queen. Because he was just a kid who needed help. Because leaving him to die would have made me no better than the people who started this war. The scarred warrior laughed bitterly. Pretty words from someone whose people killed my brother. And your people killed my friends, Jake replied. But this boy didn't kill anyone. He's 6 years old. The war isn't his fault. Queen Zarathek studied Jake's face. You could have used him to bargain for your freedom. I thought about it, Jake admitted. But look at him. Really look at him. Could you use a scared kid as a weapon? The queen looked at her son. Prince Kef was holding Jake's hand and watching the adults talk with worried eyes. The boy clearly trusted his human protector completely. Show me a normal day, the queen said suddenly. Jake looked confused. What? Show me what you and my son do every day. I want to see how you have been living. Jake stood up slowly. Okay, kid, want to show your mom what we learned? Prince Kef's face lit up. Yes, mother, watch this. For the next hour, Prince Kef demonstrated everything Jake had taught him. He showed how to start a fire using flint and steel. He identified which plants were safe to eat and which ones were poison. He practiced throwing his knife at targets until he hit the center 3 times in a row. The warriors watched in amazement as the young prince moved with confidence and skill. This was not the soft royal child they expected to find. This was a boy who had learned to survive. Jakthar says being royal means protecting people, Prince Kef told his mother. So I have to be strong and smart to protect my people when I grow up. Queen Zarathek looked at Jake with new understanding. You have been preparing him to be a leader. I've been preparing him to survive, Jake corrected. But yeah, I told him that real strength comes from helping others, not hurting them. The queen was quiet for a long time. Her warriors waited for orders, but she seemed to be thinking hard about something. Finally, she spoke. You saved my son's life. You protected him when you could have abandoned him. You taught him skills that will serve him all his life. She paused. But you are still human and we are still at war. Jake nodded. I know. I should take you prisoner. My advisors will say I should execute you for being on our territory. Prince Kef jumped up. No, mother, you can't hurt Jakthar. He's my guardian brother. The queen looked surprised. Guardian brother? You gave him a kinship name? He earned it, Prince Kef said firmly. He protected me when no one else could. Queen Zarathek stared at Jake for a long moment. Something was bothering her. Something beyond just finding a human with her son. She looked like she was trying to remember something important. What is your full name, human? She asked. Jake Morrison, he replied. The queen's eyes went wide. She stepped back like she had been hit. Morrison, she whispered. The scarred warrior moved closer to his queen. My lady, what is wrong? Queen Zarathek looked at Jake with shock and something that might have been recognition. We need to contact Elder Thanecole immediately. Have him bring the sacred archives. Mother? Prince Kef asked. What's wrong? The queen knelt down beside her son but kept looking at Jake. Nothing is wrong, my child. But I think we have a much bigger situation than I first thought. Elder Thanecole arrived 2 hours later with a transport full of guards and a metal case that looked very old and important. He was ancient even by Zelani standards, with white fur and deep amber eyes that seemed to hold centuries of knowledge. Jake and Prince Kef waited near the shelter while Queen Zarathek spoke quietly with the elder. Jake could not hear their words, but he could see the queen pointing at him several times. The elder kept looking at a device in his hands, then back at Jake, then at the device again. What do you think they're talking about? Prince Kef whispered. I don't know, kid, Jake replied. But your mom seems pretty upset about something. The boy leaned against Jake's side. I don't want them to take you away. Jake put his arm around the young prince. Whatever happens, you'll be okay. You're strong now, remember? And you'll have your mom to protect you. But who will protect you? Jake smiled sadly. Don't worry about me. I'm a big tough human, right? Elder Thanecole approached them carrying the metal case. Queen Zarathek walked beside him, her face showing confusion and something that might have been fear. Jake Morrison, the elder said in a voice like old leather, son of Admiral Kate Morrison of the Human Colonial Alliance. Jake stood up straighter. Yes, sir. How did you know about my mother? Instead of answering, Elder Thanecole set the metal case on a flat rock and opened it. Inside were several old books and scrolls made of material that looked like metal, but bent like paper. Strange symbols covered the pages, glowing with soft blue light. These are the sacred archives, the elder explained. They contain all the most important treaties and agreements between our peoples. He pulled out one particular scroll, including the betrothal accord signed 20 years ago. Jake felt his stomach drop. He knew exactly what the elder was talking about. The peace treaty, you know of it? Queen Zarathek asked, her voice strange. My mother told me about it before she died, Jake said quietly. She said it was just a political formality that would never really happen. Elder Thancol unrolled the scroll. The symbols glowed brighter as it opened, and Jake could see his mother's signature at the bottom next to other names in Zalani writing. The treaty was more than political, the elder said. It was a binding agreement between our royal house and your family, a marriage contract to ensure lasting peace between our species. Prince Kef looked confused. Marriage contract? Queen Zarathek knelt beside her son. 20 years ago, I agreed to marry Jake's mother's son to end the fighting between humans and Zalani. But the war started anyway, Jake said. The treaty failed. The war started because extremist groups on both sides wanted it to fail, Elder Thancol corrected. But the betrothal contract was never officially cancelled. According to our law, it is still valid. Jake looked at Queen Zarathek with new understanding. That's why you seem to recognize my name. I never forgot, she said quietly. Your mother brought you to the treaty signing. You were 8 years old with brown hair and serious eyes. During the ceremony, an assassin tried to kill me. You jumped in front of the energy blast. Jake touched his left shoulder where an old scar marked his skin. I remember. You were hurt and I thought I should help. A human child risked his life to save a Zalani princess, Elder Thancol said. That act of courage impressed the queen so much that she suggested the betrothal herself. Queen Zarathek nodded. I told my father that any species that could produce such brave children would make good allies. The betrothal was my idea. Prince Kef looked between Jake and his mother with wide eyes. So Jakthar is supposed to marry you? It's more complicated than that, Elder Thancol said. He pointed to symbols on the scroll. The betrothal includes specific conditions. Both parties must demonstrate courage and protection of what is precious to the other. Jake stared at the elder. What does that mean? It means the marriage is only valid if both people prove they can protect what matters most to their future spouse. Queen Zarathek explained. I would have to show I could protect something precious to you. And I would have to show I could protect something precious to you, Jake finished. Prince Kef jumped up excitedly. But Jakthar already did that. He protected me. Elder Thancol smiled, the first time Jake had seen any emotion on the old Zalani's face. Indeed he did. For 3 months he protected the most precious thing in Queen Zarathek's world, her son and heir. But I haven't done anything to protect what's precious to Jake, the queen said. Jake looked at her thoughtfully. Actually, you have. What do you mean? You came looking for your son instead of just assuming he was dead, Jake said. You brought him home safely. And right now you're not shooting me even though you have every reason to. You're protecting the peace your mother and I both wanted. Elder Thancol examined the scroll more carefully. There is another condition. The betrothal is only binding if both parties choose it freely, without force or political pressure. Queen Zarathek looked at Jake seriously. The war between our peoples is not over. If we honor this betrothal, it will change everything. There will be those on both sides who call us traitors. And if we don't honor it, Jake asked, then you are free to return to human space and I will rule my empire as I see fit. Jake was quiet for a long moment. He looked at Prince Kef, who was watching him with hopeful eyes. He thought about the past 3 months living in the forest and teaching the boy to be strong. He thought about Queen Zarathek, who had traveled across dangerous territory to find her lost son. Can I ask you something? Jake said to the queen. Yes. Why did you really suggest the betrothal 20 years ago? Was it just politics? Queen Zarathek considered her answer carefully. When I was young, I believed that strength came from conquest and domination. Then I met your mother, who showed me that true strength comes from protection and sacrifice. And when I saw an 8-year-old human boy risk his life to save someone he barely knew, she paused. I realized that your people might teach mine something important about what it means to be strong. And now? Now I have watched you spend 3 months protecting my son, asking for nothing in return. You could have used him as a bargaining chip or left him to die. Instead, you made him stronger and kept him safe. She looked directly into Jake's eyes. I think 8-year-old me was right about your people. Prince Kef grabbed both their hands. So you're going to get married and we can all stay together? Jake and Queen Zarathek looked at each other. There was something in her blue eyes that Jake had not expected to see. Not just respect or gratitude, but real warmth. It's not that simple, kid, Jake said gently. This is about more than just us. It's about ending a war. But you want to, right? Prince Kev pressed. You want to be my new father? Jake felt his throat tighten. Over the past 3 months, he had grown to love this brave little boy like his own son. The idea of leaving him was painful. I want what's best for you, Jake said, and for your people in mine. Elder Thanecole rolled up the scroll. The choice must be made freely by both parties. There is no shame in refusing. Queen Zarathek stood up and faced Jake. If we do this, there will be no going back. We will be bound not just as political allies, but as partners in everything. Are you prepared for that responsibility? Jake thought about everything that had brought him to this moment. The war, the crash, finding a hurt child in the wreckage, 3 months of building a life together in the forest. All of it had led to this choice. I've been preparing for it my whole life, he said. I just didn't know it until now. That evening, they sat around a fire Jake had built near the shelter. Prince Kef was asleep between them, tired from the emotional day. Elder Thanecole had returned to the Zalani ships to prepare reports, leaving Jake and Queen Zarathek to talk. Tell me about your mother, the Queen said quietly. Jake stared into the fire. Admiral Kate Morrison was the best diplomat in the Colonial Alliance. She believed that most wars started because people stopped talking to each other. He smiled sadly. She used to say that the hardest part of making peace was getting both sides to admit they might be wrong. She was wise, Queen Zarathek said. I remember her at the peace talks. She never raised her voice, but somehow she made everyone listen. She was like that at home too. When I was angry or upset, she would just sit with me until I was ready to talk. Jake picked up a stick and poked at the fire. She died in the first battle of the war. Her ship was destroyed when the peace talks collapsed. Queen Zarathek was quiet for a moment. I am sorry. The war cost both our peoples too much. What about your father? Jake asked. The old king? He died 2 years ago in a bombing attack on the capital, she replied. Extremists from your side managed to plant explosives in the royal palace. He was trying to restart peace negotiations when it happened. Jake felt sick. I didn't know. I'm sorry. It is not your fault, just as my people's attacks are not mine, she said. We have both lost family to this war. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the fire burn down. Finally, Queen Zarathek spoke again. Do you remember much about the treaty signing? Some of it, Jake said. I remember being bored during most of the speeches. But I remember you. What do you remember about me? Jake smiled. You were about 15, I think. You wore a blue dress with silver decorations that looked like stars. You seemed really serious and grown up. But when the boring parts happened, you would make funny faces that made me want to laugh. Queen Zarathek actually smiled. I was nervous. It was my first important diplomatic event, and I was afraid I would embarrass my father. And then the assassin came. Yes. Her expression grew serious. A radical from the human freedom movement. He had smuggled an energy weapon past security. He was aiming for my heart when you jumped in the way. Jake touched his shoulder again. I saw the weapon coming and just reacted. I didn't really think about it. That is what impressed me most, she said. You did not hesitate. You did not think about politics or species or consequences. You just saw someone in danger and acted to protect them. My mom always taught me to help people when I could. After the attack, while the doctors were treating your wound, my father asked me what I thought of humans, Queen Zarathek continued. I told him that any species that taught their children such courage deserved our respect. So you suggested the betrothal. I suggested an alliance through marriage, yes. But I also requested that it be with you specifically. Jake looked surprised. Really, why? Because I wanted to marry someone who would protect others before himself, she said simply. Someone who understood that true strength comes from service, not domination. You were pretty smart for a 15-year-old. My father thought I was crazy, she admitted. He said I was too young to understand the implications. But my mother supported the idea. She said that watching you jump in front of that weapon taught her something important about human nature. Jake was quiet for a moment. So what happened? Why did the peace fall apart? Queen Zarathek sighed. Extremists on both sides. The Human Freedom Movement said the treaty gave too much power to aliens. The Zilani Purity Council said we should not contaminate our bloodline with human genetics. They organized protests, terrorist attacks, sabotage of trade negotiations. My mother tried to keep the peace talks going, Jake said. Even after the attacks started, she believed diplomacy could work. So did my father. They met secretly several times trying to find a solution. Queen Zarathek stared into the fire. The last meeting was supposed to be on a neutral station. That's where her ship was destroyed. The official report said it was an accident. It was not an accident. Extremist forces from both sides worked together to destroy any chance of peace. They killed the best people from both our species. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. So all of this, the whole war, was because some people couldn't accept that we might be able to live together? Yes, they sat in silence again. Prince Kef stirred in his sleep and mumbled something in Zilani. Queen Zarathek gently smoothed his fur. He has grown so much, she said softly. When I left him at the summer palace, he was still just a baby who needed constant protection. Now look at him. He's tough, Jake agreed. Tougher than most adults I know. You taught him that. I just showed him how to take care of himself. The toughness was already there. Queen Zarathek looked at Jake carefully. Why did you really stay to protect him? The truth. Jake thought about his answer. At first, it was just because leaving a hurt kid to die felt wrong. But after a few days, he paused. I lost my whole squad in the crash. My friends were dead and I was alone on an enemy world. Taking care of Kef gave me a purpose. He needed me and I needed to be needed. And now he feels like my son, Jake said honestly. I know he's not, and I know you're his real parent. But these 3 months, watching him grow stronger and braver every day, I can't imagine my life without him in it. Queen Zarathek was quiet for a long time. He loves you, she said finally. I can see it in how he looks at you, how he trusts you completely. In our culture, that kind of bond is sacred. In human culture, too. If we honor the betrothal, she said slowly, it will not just be a political marriage. We will be a family. All 3 of us, Jake looked at her. Is that what you want? I want my son to be happy and safe, she said. I want the war to end before it destroys both our peoples. And she hesitated. What? I want to know the man who spent 3 months protecting my child while asking for nothing in return. She met his eyes. I want to see if the brave boy who jumped in front of an assassin's weapon grew into a man I could respect and trust. And if he did? Queen Zarathek smiled, and for a moment she looked less like a warrior queen and more like the young princess Jake remembered. Then maybe my 15-year-old self was smarter than anyone gave her credit for. Prince Kef opened his eyes and looked up at them. Are you talking about getting married? We're talking about a lot of things, kid, Jake said. Good, Prince Kef said sleepily. Because I want Jakthar to be my new father. And I want you to be happy, mother. He closed his eyes again, apparently satisfied that the adults were working things out. Queen Zarathek and Jake looked at each other across the fire. Both of them were thinking the same thing. This decision was not just about them anymore. It was about giving this brave little boy the family he deserved. Tomorrow both our fleets will arrive, Queen Zarathek said. We will have to make our choice public. Are you ready for that? Are you? Jake looked down at Prince Kef, then back at the woman who might become his wife. I think so. But I need to know one thing. What? Do you think this could be real? Not just a political alliance, but an actual partnership? Queen Zarathek considered the question seriously. I think, she said finally, that we are about to find out. The next morning brought the sound of ships entering the atmosphere. Jake counted at least 12 different engine signatures through his scanner. Both the Zilani Royal Fleet and Human Colonial Navy had arrived to collect their people. Prince Kef pressed against Jake's side as they watched the ships land in the valley below their camp. What happens now? Now we find out if your mom and I are brave enough to try something crazy, Jake said. Queen Zarathek emerged from the shelter wearing her full battle armor. She looked every inch the warrior queen, but Jake could see uncertainty in her blue eyes. The human fleet is requesting immediate surrender of all Zilani forces, she reported. My admiral is demanding the return of Prince Kef and the execution of any humans found on our territory. So basically, everyone wants a fight, Jake said. It appears so. Elder Thanicol arrived with his transport carrying communication equipment. Both fleets are preparing for battle. We have perhaps 1 hour before shooting starts. Jake looked at Queen Zarathek. Are you ready to try our plan? She nodded. Broadcasting the betrothal documents and claiming joint sovereignty over this moon is our only chance to stop the fighting. And if it doesn't work? Then we will have tried to make peace and our children will know we did not choose war. Jake activated his emergency transmitter and linked it to the Zalani communication system. In moments they were broadcasting to both fleets on all frequencies. This is Jake Morrison of the Human Colonial Alliance and Queen Zarathek of the Zalani Empire, Jake began. We are speaking to you from the surface of the moon Kithara under joint protection. Static filled the channel as both fleets tried to override the transmission. Elder Thanecole's equipment was stronger, and their signal pushed through. Queen Zarathek continued the broadcast. By the authority of the sacred betrothal accord signed 20 years ago between our peoples, we declare this moon to be neutral territory under shared governance. Jake Morrison, this is Admiral Lisa Brown of the CNS Independence, came a sharp voice through the communicator. You are ordered to identify your location for immediate extraction. Admiral Brown, this is Jake, he replied. I'm exactly where I need to be. A different voice cut in, speaking Zalani but with translation for the human fleet. My queen, this is Admiral Koltar. I am prepared to eliminate all human forces and return you to safety. Admiral Koltar, stand down, Queen Zarathek commanded. We are not in need of rescue. Prince Kef stepped closer to the communicator. This is Prince Kef. I want everyone to stop fighting. Jakthar protected me and taught me to be strong. My mother came to find me. Now we want to be a family and stop the war. Silence fell over both fleets. A 6-year-old prince calling for peace was not what either side expected. Elder Thanecole began transmitting the betrothal documents and proof of their validity. These accords are binding under both human and Zalani law, he announced. They establish legal precedent for joint governance and diplomatic immunity. This is ridiculous. Admiral Brown's voice crackled through the comm. Morrison, you're a prisoner of war, not a diplomat. Actually, Admiral, I'm a husband-to-be, Jake replied. And according to these documents, that makes me a recognized representative of both our peoples. My queen, Admiral Koltar interrupted. Surely you cannot intend to honor this ancient contract with a human soldier. I intend to honor a commitment made by my people to ensure peace, Queen Zarathek replied firmly. The betrothal contract requires both parties to demonstrate courage in protecting what is precious to the other. Jake Morrison has spent 3 months protecting my son. I will spend the rest of my life protecting the peace our parents died trying to achieve. Jake took her hand. And I will spend my life protecting both of you and working to end this war. Prince Kef grabbed both their other hands. And I will help because that's what families do. The communication channels erupted in arguments. Officers from both fleets demanded explanations, threatened military action, and questioned the legal validity of ancient treaties. Through it all, Jake, Queen Zarathek, and Prince Kef stood together on the small hill where Jake had built their shelter. They were not backing down. Finally, a new voice came through the communicator. This is Colonel Sarah Martinez, legal advisor to the Colonial Fleet. I've reviewed the transmitted documents. The betrothal accord appears to be legally binding under interspecies treaty law. A Zalani voice followed. High Judge Veltar of the Royal Court confirms that the sacred accords carry the full weight of imperial law. The betrothal contract is valid. So what does that mean? Admiral Brown demanded. It means, Elder Thanecole explained, that any attack on this moon would be an act of war against both the Human Colonial Alliance and the Zalani Empire. It means that Jake Morrison and Queen Zarathek have legal authority to establish this as neutral territory for peace negotiations. And it means, Prince Kef added in his clear young voice, that anyone who tries to hurt my family will have to answer to me when I grow up. Several people on both sides actually laughed at that. Queen Zarathek stepped forward. We propose an immediate ceasefire and the establishment of permanent peace talks on this moon. Both our peoples are tired of war. Both have lost too much. It is time to find a better way. The Queen speaks wisdom, said a voice Jake didn't recognize. This is Captain Rita Stone of the CNS Harmony. My crew votes to support the ceasefire. The 3rd Battle Group of the Royal Fleet agrees, came another voice. We have fought long enough. One by one, ships from both fleets began declaring support for the ceasefire. Not all of them. Some voices still called for battle. But enough to matter. Admiral Brown's voice came back, sounding tired. Morrison, are you absolutely certain about this decision? Jake looked at Queen Zarathek and Prince Kef. "Admiral, 3 months ago I was a prisoner with no hope and no future. Today I have a family and a chance to help end this war. I've never been more certain of anything in my life." "And you, Your Majesty?" Admiral Koltar asked. "I have my son back, and I have found a partner who shares my commitment to peace," Queen Zarathek replied. "I choose hope over fear, alliance over conquest." There was a long pause. Then Admiral Brown spoke again. "Very well. The colonial fleet will honor the ceasefire and send diplomatic representatives to the surface." "The Royal Fleet agrees," Admiral Koltar said, though he sounded reluctant. "Long live the Queen." Elder Thainkel began coordinating landing sites for diplomatic shuttles. Both fleets pulled back to safe distances and powered down their weapons. Prince Kef hugged both Jake and his mother. "We did it." "We stopped the fighting." "We started something," Jake corrected gently. "Making real peace will take a lot more work. But we'll do it together," Queen Zarathek said. 3 days later, they held the wedding ceremony at sunset on the hill where Jake had built their shelter. Diplomats from both fleets attended, along with Prince Kef, who insisted on being the ring-bearer. The ceremony combined human and Zalani traditions. Jake wore a simple blue uniform. Queen Zarathek wore traditional royal robes with the silver star decorations Jake remembered from their first meeting. When they exchanged vows, Jake promised to protect Prince Kef and work for peace between their peoples. Queen Zarathek promised to honor the alliance their parents had dreamed of, and to build a future where their children would never know war. Prince Kef pronounced them married in both languages, then hugged them both so hard that Queen Zarathek's formal crown fell off. 6 months later, the peace station on Cathara housed the largest diplomatic conference in galactic history. Children from both species played together in the gardens while their parents negotiated trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Jake taught survival skills to mixed classes of human and Zalani students. Queen Zarathek established the new Interspecies Council with herself and Jake as co-chairs. Prince Kef, now 7 years old, had become the unofficial ambassador between the species. He spoke both languages perfectly and had friends from both worlds. Every evening, the three of them would sit by the fire at their original campsite, now preserved as a memorial to the beginning of peace. Prince Kef would practice his lessons while Jake and Queen Zarathek planned the next day's negotiations. "Do you ever regret it?" Queen Zarathek asked Jake one evening. "Regret what?" "Giving up your old life to stay here with us." Jake looked at Prince Kef, who was teaching 2 human children and a young Zalani how to carve wood safely. He looked at his wife, who had become not just his partner in marriage but his closest friend and ally. "I didn't give up my old life," he said. "I found my real life." Queen Zarathek smiled and took his hand. "The brave boy who jumped in front of an assassin grew up to be a good man. The wise princess who chose alliance over conquest grew up to be an amazing queen." Prince Kef looked up from his teaching. "And I grew up to have the best family in the galaxy." As the sun set over the forest moon where a war ended and a family began, Jake Morrison realized that sometimes the most important choices were the simplest ones. Protect those who need protecting. Choose love over fear. Never give up on the possibility of peace. It had taken a crashed ship, 3 months in the wilderness, and a brave little boy to teach him those lessons. But they were lessons worth learning. The war was over. The real work of building peace was just beginning. And Jake Morrison, former